Oh, hi. It's a new episode. It's been a while. We were going through and hitting those weekly episodes, but we're back on the bi-weekly schedule for the time being at least. But oh man, what a couple of weeks it has been. There's definitely a lot of things to go through and talk about here in the Diablo community that have been going on. And so let's go ahead and get started and jump straight into episode 202, Vicarious Rumors. I promise the show title will make sense, though you probably can already guess one of the things we're going to be talking about from it. And just for a little bit of feedback that I've been going through and getting on the show, because some of the episodes do tend to be a little bit longer, you know, hour and a half, 2 hours, that some people have wrote in and suggested maybe doing a little bit of a quick rundown of everything that goes on in the episode. I'm always one to go through and to deliver on some good and constructive feedback. So let's just jump right into it. So BlizzCon Online, that's one of the big things. We got our first little look at that, and we'll be going through and jumping into some of the things that means and some of the goodies that we'll be getting, along with everyone is expecting something big from Diablo 4 coming from BlizzCon. We have an interesting developer's take on debugging in Linux, which goes completely over my head. We've got tons of new job listings from Blizzard on various Diablo projects. I'm actually kind of sad about not being able to play Diablo Immortal recently. I ponder on the things about whatever happened to that Netflix Diablo series, and of course, finally, we've got some news that Vicarious Visions has been acquired by Activision, or by Blizzard. They already were acquired by Activision, and started working on some other Blizzard projects that I wonder what it could be. But also, whatever happened to Diablo 3? And that's going to be the starting point for the show, because, yeah, it's been a while since we've heard anything about Diablo 3. There have been some, you know, various little quirks and issues with some community chat and some leaderboard reporting and such, you know, over the last couple of months in the season, but those have all been fixed. But we haven't really had any updates as to when the season's going to end or when we're going to be having the next PTR. We knew going into this season that there would be extended seasons. We knew this from last season, that they said that they're going to be expanding the PTR cycle, and that meant that the season itself would be extended, you know, by a couple of weeks in order to match that new cycle. But given what we saw last time, because of the recording of this episode on Wednesday, February 3rd, because we don't have the PTR yet, if the PTR were to say, from out of nowhere, launch tomorrow or Friday, you know, we would not actually get the new season starting and the new patch probably until March. And with kind of the realistic expectations that they might not talk about anything Diablo 3 related until we actually get to BlizzCon, it's a nice big opportunity for them to go through and share, you know, not just what's next in terms of the next season and the next patch, but maybe kind of a roadmap for what's coming for the rest of the year in the next couple of seasons that they'll be going through and carrying us into you know, 2022 with the new artists that's been added on. Maybe there's going to be some other, you know, team expansions or something like that that they might announce. We have no idea what they've been working on, but it is one of those ones where just going through and looking at, you know, the prior PTR cycles and such, we've got some time. We definitely have some time. If they were to say go and announce the next PTR at BlizzConline, which is something that they have done in the past, they've extended a season by a couple of weeks because they held off on what would be the traditional PTR announcement until BlizzCon, and then started the PTR just a few days after that. They also have done the opposite, where they've announced the PTR like a week or two before BlizzCon and kind of blowing away our expectations. So it's a coin toss at this point, but I would be surprised if we get to BlizzCon and haven't heard something about it. So pretty sure that we're going to hear something about the next season for Diablo 3 by the end of BlizzCon Online. So, you know, the end of February, we're going to have a clearer, more defined roadmap, which unfortunately, pushing it that far would be pushing the next patch, the next season, until the end of March and possibly even the beginning of April, just looking at things realistically. But as we're going and talking about BlizzCon Online, we finally went through and got our first little sneak, little tidbit from Blizzard on what to go through and expect. I'm sure most of you by now have already gone through and watched the pre-show welcome from Blizzard, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what they have planned across all the franchises, especially when you go through and look at the little celebratory packages that Blizzard is launching alongside. This is kind of taking the place of the virtual goodie bag, as well as the goodie bag that you normally would get that's associated with like the virtual ticket at BlizzCon, or just getting an actual ticket and going to BlizzCon. And there's the different levels that you can go through and get, starting at $20 and working its way up to $60. These ones, of course, are for the most dedicated and die-hard Diablo 3 fans, or for those that are a fan of a multitude of Blizzard games. With the Essentials pack, you start off with just some little things. You get a pet for World of Warcraft. You get a hero and a mount for Heroes of the Storm. You get some StarCraft portraits. You do get a, as of yet, unreleased Diablo 3 portrait and pet. You also get some Hearthstone card packs. And then from there, if you say upgrade to the Heroic pack, you also get a new legendary skin for Reinhardt in Overwatch. You're getting even more goodies for Hearthstone. You're also getting a mount for World of Warcraft, some loot boxes for Overwatch, but you're also now getting a set of cosmetic wings for Diablo 3. And then finally, you've got the Epic Pack, which is the $60. You're getting even more Hearthstone cards. You're getting even more, loot boxes from Overwatch. You're getting a full month of World of Warcraft game time. So that's something that, you can basically play World of Warcraft for free. I can't remember what level that you can get up to now, since they did like the level squish. But you used to, at least, without, if you just have the game time, you used to be able to play everything up until the current expansion. So if you were to just install the free trial to World of Warcraft, add on that 30 days of game time, you'd be able to go like all the way up to, say, like level 50 and experience, Battle for Azeroth and such. Which, it's kind of like a risk-free, if you're not scared of getting addicted to the game, trial for WoW. But this is a Diablo podcast, and so the last and final thing is a full set of Diablo 3 transmog items, which, has been a popular inclusion in World of Warcraft for quite some time, between 2019's Yeti outfit and then what we ended up getting, what would have been, or what it was rumored to have been, the BlizzCon special for WoW was going to be a Fairy Dragon transmog set. So I'll be interested in seeing what they pull out for Diablo 3. Is it going to be something related to like a Diablo 3 announcement, or could it be something that's related to a Diablo 4 announcement, since some of the rumors are, or not so much rumors, but more or less confirmed, that we'll be getting a new class announcement in Diablo 4. Could it be some sort of transmog related to that? Could it be like a Lilith transmog? It might even be something related to one of the other franchises, given a lot of the rumors have been that they're going to be adding like Burning Crusade to World of Warcraft Classic. You're getting the reskin of the original Burning Crusade Collector's Edition pet in this pack. So rumors are all kind of pointing towards that they're going to be announcing the Burning Crusade, and that could be some sort of D3 tie-in, and that's why they're not revealing it as of yet, because it's going to be, kind of like a cross franchise promotional item where you're running around as, Illidan or something, because they already have Illidan's wings in D3. This would just be like the next step of being able to do like a full Demon Hunter transmog. We probably will not see the D3 cosmetics until we actually get to BlizzCon itself, there were I can't remember where it was exactly at the moment, but there was like in the remember Leviathan had tweeted that there was like the little legal text down at the bottom that the Diablo 3 promotional items would be added in by the end of February. So like February 28th, you would be like the final date for them adding in the Diablo 3 items. So they're being hidden for a reason. And I think it's because it's tying into one of the other announcements at BlizzCon. But, you know, what announcements could those be? Well, who knows? You know, as I mentioned already, the big one that we learned in the last Diablo 4 developer blog update was that they would be, you know, giving us something with an updated campfire scene, which definitely points towards, oh, they're announcing a new character. Could they be announcing both of the last character classes for Diablo 4? I'm not so sure on that one. I think we'll probably only get one, just based on them continuing to say that they're still very early in development. It's just, it helps them manage the timelines of releasing content, releasing data, as they feel comfortable of doing it. Obviously, if they're already set and ready to go with both of the character classes, they could do it. But I also see them going and holding back on announcing both of the character classes until, you know, kind of like leveraging that one out across multiple years, because I still think that the game itself is multiple years away. It will kind of be like a big tell whether they announce just one or both of the characters, you know, at this BlizzCon. But I mean, it's only a couple weeks away. It's coming up February 19th, because that was one of the other things that they mentioned, like in that pre-show. February 19th is going to be the developer streams, and the breakdown for it is you'll be able to, they'll be streaming multiple IPs or franchises across different channels. So if you're only interested in Diablo, you can turn in on just that one channel and catch everything Diablo related, without having to worry about, oh, there's some Hearthstone content or StarCraft content, when I just care about Diablo. And then, you know, but it's still going to be all there in VOD, so if you do care about multiple of the franchises, you can go back and catch what you missed, instead of, you know, fearing that I've got to juggle like 15 different browsers, and you know, and tab back and forth without having to miss anything. So it's nice having the confirmation that you will have all of the VODs available, so to catch anything that you missed, and also that I can just tune in on one channel, watch all of my Diablo content, and not having to worry about missing something, oh, because it's on a different stage, or it's on a different platform, or anything like that. So that'll be nice. You know, as I imagine that even though a lot of the people that, you know, follow the show are fans of multiple franchises, we're all here because we're Diablo fans, and so that is what we're tuning into BlizzCon for. But outside of you know, the character classes, it's like, what else is there going to be? And again, you know, Blizzard at least has given us a little bit of a nod in the past developer updates that they'll be exploring, you know, some more of the in-game systems in Diablo 4. You know, with the last episode where we talked about Diablo Immortal with Echo, there was some interesting takes on things that I think Immortal did, or refined from their experiences with Diablo 3. And, you know, between like the dungeons and like the implementation of like the bounties as opposed to world quests or the world bounties and such, that there's a lot of things that you can do with in-game systems. I think that, you know, you can even go or take it further than what Diablo Immortal is doing in Diablo 4. You know, there's a huge breadth of experience at Blizzard that has experience with in-game systems or repeatable content, balancing playtime and power, so that way it has more like, you you feel as if I can log in and do a couple of things for a short amount of time, and I've progressed my character. But if I want to grind, the option is there for me to get even more power should I choose to. But the other person that just logs in and plays for 15 minutes doesn't feel like they're lagging so far behind that it's impossible to go through and catch up. You know, just as an example with Shadowlands, one of the big issues with Shadowlands is like gear progression that they have going on right now. Doing dungeons is next to useless, except for the, you know, the weekly rewards that you get for it. So I'm only going to do a couple dungeons, unlock a couple of weekly slots, because it's going to give me very high item level gear, but the dungeon itself drops gear that's like a tier or two behind that I don't actually care about. And not to mention the dungeon just drops such little gear, which can be frustrating if you're going through and trying to max out your character and I want everything to be, you know, a max item level thing. But there's other avenues that you have in order to source that gear through PvP or raids or what have you. To the more casual person that really only has time to go through and log on and run a couple of dungeons, which is actually kind of myself these past couple of weeks, it isn't as frustrating. Like, I can definitely see the frustration that higher end players, you know, have with it, where it can become a grind, but I see myself as like the more casual side, the benefits from it, because now I don't feel forced to have to do 10 dungeons a week in order to go through and, you know, get my character completely maxed out. Because the other people that I'm competing with, you know, they're still have higher, better gear than I do, but they're not as far ahead, like in this short amount of time into the expansion, than they might have been in previous expansions. Yeah, the ones that do mythic raiding or very high level PvP, yeah, they're already there, decked out, geared out, because they've facilitated their character through every possible avenue that they can by dedicating a lot of time to it. But like someone previously could just, oh, I'm just gonna grind mythics, you know, for like 3 straight days, and then I'm fully like heroic geared, and you know, I don't have to do anything else with the character. Well, I'm just sitting in blues. You know, it's one of those ones that there are avenues there, and trying to balance that reward system through multiple in-game systems might be something that the Diablo 4 devs are looking at. That, you know, you're not just going to jump straight into Greater Rifts and do nothing but Greater Rifts, except having to do a regular rift to get a key to do a Greater Rift. That, you know, you'll have these small little one-off reward systems, like making your first run of bounties, you know, every day have super high level rewards in them, or reward you some sort of crafting material or some other mechanic that will allow you to progress your character in a meaningful way, that then has a drop-off after that first time that you did it. You can still go and grind it and get more character progression if you so choose, but that way, you know, you're only going to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of a more casual player instead of magnitudes of levels ahead for regulars. And this is something that might seem a little bit counterintuitive. Like, why would you want to gut the progression for your most highest end characters or your most highest end players? But these are also the same players that, like, when you're going through and playing, you know, a more hardcore game such as Path of Exile, that the grind can be part of that fun. Having to go through and grind 40-60 hours a week in order to get that super rare drop, or get your character progress to a level that you can do, you know, a high enough in-game system where, in order to get that piece to drop from a particular boss or map or what have you, and that they live for that type of grind, where they can at least see their progression towards it, and that there is at least, you know, hope to go through and do it, as opposed to more of just, you know, I'm gonna run 100 Greater Rifts and hope that I get this ancient piece, you know, or in the beginning, you know, the beginning of the season, hope that I get the last, you know, my last set piece, or this, you know, piece of jewelry to unlock the actual build that I'm trying to do, or something along those lines. That having the actual steps towards your progression towards it is better when you know like how close that you're getting to it. If I'm making sense and not ranting and rambling a little bit too much on it. But yeah, so getting back to the original point before I started going off on a little bit of a tangent there, we know that they're going to talk about in-game systems in Diablo 4, and we're also going to get a little bit more on like how the itemization plays into the skill systems and what have you. If I remember correctly, that we're going to have kind of a more complete picture of everything, and I really hope that, you know, because we won't have public access to a beta or a demo, at least I imagine, they could come out of the blue like they did with the Diablo Immortal alpha, you know, where they pick a few select people in the community and give them access, you know, to a beta client to allow them to, you know, play a demo or something like that to stream, that will at least get some extended gameplay, even if it's just like a developer playing the game and giving some commentary on it. If we can get just a solid couple hours of gameplay that we can sit there and just go frame by frame by frame, looking at every single little piece and blade of grass or what have you of something a bit higher level, to get a more understanding of how the game and all of its mechanics are going to work. Obviously, with the game being a couple of years, I think it's a safe guesstimate away that they're not going to have the complete totality of all of the in-game systems together yet. But, you know, at least hopefully a direction of where they're heading with it. Because everything that we've seen with the game so far has been like halfway through. Though, like, not even halfway through. You know, at the BlizzCon 2019, when it was announced, level 40 as being the level cap was one of those figures that was thrown out there. And all of the items that we've seen from the developer blogs this past year have been level 20. So it's halfway through the levels, though generally that's not halfway through your actual progress. So, like in Diablo 2, the halfway point from level 1 to 99, I believe, was like level 92. That was your halfway point. And so if you've ever grinded a character up to level 90, you didn't even make it halfway. That is the grind that was going and hitting people that were actually like pushing the leaderboards back in the Diablo 2 ladders. But yeah, we might still be some ways away from having a full and complete vision of what D4's system's going to be. Now, I'm gonna hold off a little bit on speculation because the next episode that I've got coming up will actually be like the pre-BlizzCon episode that's back on February 17th. And I've invited both Leviathan and Dreadscythe to come on to do our customary pre-BlizzCon predictions and speculation episode. So I'll wait till then. But you know, after having played Immortal, I am really interested to see what they have planned for the Paragon system, because I think Immortal did it really well in a way that is many times better than the system as it was implemented in Diablo 3. But continuing on with even just like a little bit of news that's out there, a kind of interesting take on some Diablo 4 news came out of Microsoft last week, in that one of the senior software engineers, Bill Randolph, wrote a blog piece over on the Microsoft going and talking about how they are using Microsoft's Visual Studio to debug Linux core dumps. And now this whole article was basically Greek to me. I am not a programmer, so it's a lot of things that I had no working knowledge with which to try and ascertain anything from it. But from with my limited scope of knowledge when it comes to things of that nature, when you're going through and like debugging things and such, one of the big differences that comes to mind between an older system like Diablo 3 and World of Warcraft is how they handle logging in the games, and if they're having like better debugging tools in order to go through and find where things break down. And now I don't know if this is something that pertains only to like production and deployment, or if these debugging tools will also be usable once like the game is live. But like World of Warcraft tracks everything that you do basically like second by second. Diablo 3 does not. The exact specifics on why that is or how that works, I'm not sure. That probably would be a better question for like Miss Cheetah, or one of the other forum MVPs, particularly with her tech support background and such. But that's why you can do an item restoration in World of Warcraft, but you can only do an account rollback in Diablo 3. Should something wrong happen to your account. But again, it's a little bit of Diablo 4 news that's out there. I figured it's something that's worth going through and covering at least a little bit. One of the other interesting things that have popped up just recently, actually like just today, if I can go through, and I have it open on the wrong window, it seems. Did I close the tab? I think I closed the tab. Well, anyways, excuse me. Blizzard just posted earlier today that they're hiring a whole bunch of positions, across the multiple Diablo projects. The big one is, of course, Diablo 4, but there are also quite a lot of projects that are listed for Diablo Immortal, and one general Diablo website-related job posting as well. So if you're if you're looking to go through and maybe take a start, in games, or jump over to a project that you're passionate about, such as Diablo 4 or Immortal, it's probably one of the best times to go through and do so. Because there's various levels of from associate to mid to senior positions, across both of the titles, Immortal and Diablo 4, to go through and take a look at. And yeah, with just talking a little bit about Immortal, I know the last episode was dedicated almost entirely to talking about Diablo Immortal, and a lot of people, I get it, you saw the hype and the fanfare. You're interested. It's a lot of the takes from the content creators and the community as a whole that got a chance to play the game might have eased your the hesitations that you might have had, going towards Diablo Immortal, but you're still holding out. You want to play it for yourself before you give it a real take. But just hear me out for a little bit, because the game was really good. It was really hard to log back into Diablo 3. One, knowing that we still have a long ways to go before the season's over, and two, basically having played the next evolution of Diablo 3 in the form of Immortal. That's not to say that I dislike Diablo 3 now in any way, shape, or form. I definitely will be going through and looking forward to trying out the PTR and whatever the new season will bring us. But it is just one of those ones where Immortal feels like it could have, a lot of the systems and things that they did in it easily could have been the next expansion for Diablo 3. With how much Immortal, or not Immortal, but Reaper of Souls changed vanilla D3, Immortal would have had, the content in Immortal would have been that same level of taking D3 to that next step. And it makes sense. The between Wyatt Chang, Matthew Berger, and others, there's a lot of big D3 alumni that are leading this title, and so they're taking a lot of the experiences and things that they learned from Diablo 3 and taking those experiences and lessons forward in this new title with a brand new engine that they know that maybe there were certain things that they encountered problems at a certain level in D3 that was just like the engine cannot handle it, the engine cannot do it, we're going to have to do a major rework, so it's not worth the time or the effort in order to try and implement this feature, that feature, and just build Immortal from the ground up with those lessons in place. You know, it shows between like the bounty system, the difficulty system, the Paragon system. There's so many things there that are just like refined Diablo 3 elements. Even the itemization, where the items are like build defining and build changing in Immortal, but don't feel mandatory. You know, you can still play a multi-shot build without like the legendary that makes multi-shot cause your enemies to burn, or that causes you to fire additional arrows. You know, it's still, sure, those things up your damage, but not 10,000%. You're talking 20%, maybe 50%. You know, or in like those 50% ones usually, you know, are at a cost, or like the dot are delayed, and so it's not an upfront damage in order to go through and, you know, maximize that power, that ability. And so it's definitely played with a much lower power curve in mind, so that way things don't get out of control like they did in D3. And so it's the only game I've been wanting to play recently, and it's gnawing at me. And so it's another thing that I hope for when we get into BlizzConline, that they are going to show us what's next for Immortal. Because we only got to play, we didn't get to go and max out, you know, we only got to 45. We didn't get the chance to actually get to the level cap of level 60. We didn't get to experience all of the in-game systems, that we don't know what the particular comment meant, because we don't know what we're missing. You know, we don't know the elements that we didn't get a chance to see. But even just with that little slice of life that we had with the game so far, it was amazing. We know that there's a couple extra skills. There'll be even more legendaries. There'll be, paid for cosmetics and other things like that within the game in order to like support the game and such. As well as, you know, some other things that we have to keep an eye on that we talked about in the last episode, such as monetization, pay for power, and other things like that, and how that's going to be balanced. I think that from what I saw in the demo, it's going to be relatively well balanced, because playtime was definitely far more rewarding than putting money in, and I hope it stays that way, and I hope that there isn't anything else, you know, at the higher levels that you can kind of like pay for power. And I would like to see easier ways to acquire legendary gems. Maybe even if it requires that you up the amount of gems that are needed in order to level them up, so that way you can still have some sort of incentive to want to like buy the crests, just for, you know, development costs and such. But, you know, you're talking, you know, like 5% like power increases, you know, as opposed to it being like multiplicative power increases. But yeah, really looking forward to Immortal. And also, the reason why you should be looking forward to Immortal is we'll more than likely be playing Immortal for a while before we get a chance to play D4. So it's going to be one of those ones that we can go through and balance between a brand new Diablo 3 season, a D2 ladder reset, and Immortal, you know, in order to go through and fill in all the time in between, as it's expected to have far more regular content updates and patches and things between classes, zones, and again, we have no idea what else is going to be going through and getting added into the system. So I'm just looking forward to that. In other news, before we get into the big one about the, you know, Vicarious Visions and the D2 remaster, I've been seeing some talk on Reddit and other places about whatever happened to the Diablo Netflix series. And now it's interesting because it's almost been a year. You know, as I went through and I pulled back up this article that I wrote February of last year. We're just like 2 weeks off. So we're 50 weeks, you know, from the last big update that we had in this often rumored, mostly confirmed project that's been running for so long. And that was so February of 2020. Nick Van Dyck, who is the president of Activision Studios, updated his LinkedIn profile and put that he was the executive producer of Diablo TV adaptation that was rendered in an anime style and would be distributed via Netflix. And this, of course, came from you know, following another one, which was the previous year and almost a year ago, or almost a year prior to that. Back in 2019, we had a trademark file for Diablo downloadable film or movie featuring narratives based on a video game that would be provided via video on demand services. And you know, so that was like, okay, we've had like kind of steady rumors year after year between you know, Andrew Crosby leaking that he was being tapped to be the showrunner for it, you know, to all of that, you know, getting erased, to the trademark filing, then you know, the executive producer accidentally confirming it via LinkedIn that he was, you know, working on the project, and then nothing. Absolutely nothing. No rumors, nada, zip, zero, zilch. But why? You know, why is it that we've had something that has, you know, more or less between the trademark filings and the LinkedIn, as well as like some Twitter gaffes and things like that, that this project still has never seen the light of day? And just kind of like to put it in a comparison with that trademark filing, Diablo Immortal was trademarked in October. Yeah, the game that they announced in 2018 was not trademarked until October of 2020. You know, literally almost 2 years after its announcement before they actually trademarked it. And then the Netflix series was trademarked almost 2 years ago, and we've not heard anything on it. This was something I have to go through and at least kind of like give props to Medieval Dragon over at BlizzPlanet, that when he was going through and doing a bunch of research into Immortal when we were leading up and had a lot of speculation and hype over the summer, he was looking at kind of the announcement to trademark to release windows, and found that even in some cases the game wasn't even trademarked until like after its release. Now, I'm not sure of like the legality behind all of that, what was the reasoning for these delayed trademark things, but it's one of those ones where the trademarking for Blizzard has at least traditionally, like 99% of the time, always been after the announcement, and usually well after the announcement. So what's different here? What's going through and happening? There are some parallels, because there has been one other big media project that Blizzard undertook, and that was the Warcraft movie. You know, and that was an interesting thing in and of itself. Didn't do all that well domestically. Did phenomenal in overseas markets. Enough so that, you know, they kind of greenlit the sequel, but it hasn't really gone anywhere. But that also kind of tracks, because the World of Warcraft movie was announced in 2006. It wasn't announced at a BlizzCon or anything like that. It was just a little press release issued on like Blizzard.com, because they didn't have a BlizzCon in 2006. And then it was 10 years later that the movie released, and it is doesn't look too good for that Diablo Netflix series when put into that perspective, when it was like, well, shoot, you know, I hopefully they've learned some things between then. They're the executive producer, Nick Van Dyck, such a funny name. He's worked on other projects such as like the Spyro, I think it's like the Zoolander series or something like that. I forget what the name of it. Skylanders, not Zoolander is something different, very different. And so there's he's worked on other projects that is actually like shipped and has been made. So hopefully that he'll have the experience to push projects through. But even after that gaffe, why so long? Obviously there was no BlizzCon this year, and a lot of things went sideways. So we might still get an announcement coming up at BlizzConline, though. There are some things that have happened that might have changed that. And one of those things is that, Activision and Netflix aren't friends right now because Netflix started poaching some of Activision Blizzard's corporate officers. And so Activision Blizzard filed a lawsuit against Netflix back in the beginning of December, on December 4th, because they stole their CFO. And this is one of those things that even though the actual poaching, didn't actually happen, it happened like in 2019. Why are they waiting so long? Well, it's because Netflix is also actually in a bit of legal trouble with Fox. Because they did the same thing to Fox, and they've been in a legal trouble or a legal battle for a couple of years now. Fox actually won that, and Netflix owes them money for going through and poaching, corporate officers from them. But Netflix is trying to appeal it, and since that judgment, Blizzard's now also filed suit for the same exact reason. Netflix apparently has issues, going through and stealing people from other companies, and because of that, there's some tension in between the two companies, which could be a reason. It's going from that kind of like that leak last February that it was being worked on with Netflix, to absolutely no information, no moving forward on the project, no further rumors or anything like that, to now they're in a legal battle. Was it something that they tried to talk out issues? Was there some sort of avenue of restitution that Activision Blizzard was going through and looking for in order to subsidize their costs for having to because of like the contract violation and all this other types of stuff? There's also been some news with Netflix going through and now just gobbling up tons of other video game IPs. They had so much success with Castlevania and The Witcher. They've now signed on a deal with Ubisoft for Assassin's Creed, as well as a bunch of other like little projects, even like Cuphead and things like that. Netflix is going through and picking up series for left and right. So if they lose a particular deal with Activision Blizzard, with not just say Diablo, there has been like a script or a treatment floating around for a couple of years now for a Call of Duty movie. That there's some substantial projects that Activision Blizzard is actively looking to go through and push through in these like alternative media, that it could potentially been one of those ones that they had like kind of like this bargaining deal. Well, we've got these projects that we want to work on with Netflix, but you've got to pay us for going through and stealing our people. Netflix is like, no, screw you. And then so Blizzard's like, all right, we'll pull this and we'll find someone else to do it. There are other companies out there that are going through and trying to do that, between like Hulu and a whole bunch of other streaming services that are trying to push forward their own original content. But that also means you know, if there was any type of deal or project that was moving forward, it could potentially have gotten stalled out. One of those other ones, while going through and researching this, you know, finding the talk of the Call of Duty film, that one has had its own share of production troubles, which going through and pulling up that, you know, after that, this actually started back in 2015, and they even went so far to hiring a director and scouting talent. Like the director was considering Tom Hardy and Chris Pine for like the leads of the role, a whole bunch of other stuff. They had started going through and putting together a production schedule. They even had someone writing a sequel to a movie that hadn't even started filming, but was supposed to start filming in 2019, and then that never happened. And then just in an interview back a year ago in February of 2020, the director, Stefano Salima, went through and said that the project was put on hold because it's not on Activision's priority list right now. So if this was something that was being handled within you know, Activision Blizzard's own internal studio, which is Activision Blizzard Studios, oddly enough, you know, it's one of those things that something big that has a huge mass market appeal, like Call of Duty, if that's getting delayed, who's to say what would happen to a, you know, a other you know, deal such as Diablo that is being worked on with a third-party company that we're having problems with, that we're in legal battle with. Doesn't look too good in terms of having anything to announce anytime soon. If they're willing to go through and put like their big cash cow on hold, who's to say what they're wanting to do with Diablo? Maybe also as production schedules have changed. You know, Leviathan and I used to go through and talk about how Blizzard kind of had changed their mentality towards announcements ever since StarCraft 2 and Diablo 3, where the development seemed to have went on forever, where you're waiting 3 years, 4 years between announcement and release, and so you started having faster turnarounds, where you were usually within like 1 year, 1.5, 2 years at most between announcement to release. Like the release window for Overwatch was many times faster than that of Diablo 3. Same thing for Heroes of the Storm, Hearthstone, the WoW expansion since then. They've all had much faster turnaround times. And Diablo Immortal and Diablo 4 are different. Diablo Immortal, though, didn't start off as different because a lot of the comments that they had made during BlizzCon 2018 made it seem as if they were looking to launch in 2019. But something happened. And I'm not just talking about the fan backlash over the announcement. There's obviously that something happened that had them go back to the drawing board in a big way in order to retool the game. And it is, for whatever the issue was, the game is marvelous for it. You can feel the polish in just that technical alpha state that we got the chance to play through. You know, but it definitely was breaking the Blizzard mold that they had going for themselves over the last couple of years in terms of announcing a game and then releasing it. To where now, you know, we're past the 2-year point for Immortal. We just had the technical alpha. We haven't had beta or like a full regional test. Because even though they had the test in Australia, it was limited to 2,000 people. You had to be invited. The way that a lot of other mobile companies will do a regional testing is just if you live in Australia, you can download the game. No invites required or anything like that. Full game, full access, as they go through and they'll monitor it and make changes for the full release of the game. You know, we're some ways away from Immortal, though it looks very likely that it will be 2021 for this game to be launching. Hopefully within the first half and not the last half of 2021. And then Diablo 4 is still, you know, we're a little over a year past its announcement, and we're probably more than a year, at least 2 years or so, away from the actual launch of the game. And so it's, you know, it's kind of going pretty far out, and it's something that the Diablo Netflix series could have been in that early production stages when Blizzard was still kind of like gripping and adhering on to that. We're going to announce it, and then the game will be like playable in a beta state within a year, and it will be launched within 2. And we'll have that Netflix series out in the interim to build interest, to generate hype, so that way, you know, people will buy into it. Just a whole big, you know, multi-market, you know, marketing push in order to generate interest for the game. And if Diablo 4 is now further out, that could be one of the reasons why the project itself is in a bit more of a delay, or it could be being worked on slower, because this is intended to be a marketing piece or a tie-in with Diablo 4, and they don't want to release it a couple of years before, you know, the actual game itself releases, because, you know, it's the impact that it will have on the game's release will obviously drop off, as opposed to maybe releasing it 6 months prior to generate a huge amount of hype alongside a beta or something along those lines. And we see that like in the Diablo comic from years ago, that was obviously in retrospect now a big tie-in, to Diablo 4, because it was the story of Lilith and how the sanctuary was created, you know, the birth of the Nephilim and all that, just from like the little tidbits that we had on it that had subsequently been canceled. And those, you know, that news and those rumors and stuff had come from when like Diablo 4 more than likely had first actually started being produced in earnest, which would have been, again, it's a great marketing tool and lead up that they did with Diablo 3, you know, where they had the Sword of Justice as a comic tie-in, you know, prior to the launch of Diablo 3 to lead up to it and start, you know, talking about it and such. And it's just, in the grand scheme of things, I'd rather have it sooner than later, but it makes sense for those, you know, kind of like, you know, it's outside of the main demographic, it's outside of the actual gaming course itself, but to have like the TV shows, these marketing tie-ins, to be closer to release. So it's not quite a shock that we don't hear anything about it until maybe next year, or maybe 2 years from now, depending upon how far along Diablo 4 is in development. We just won't know. And the one last thing that really got me going through and thinking about like the Netflix show and all of that, despite a couple of questions over on Reddit, was an article that I went through and I found on Screen Rant, that's talking about the old rumors of a Legend of Zelda show that Netflix had been going through and working on, because this one is from a while ago, because this one was like a project that had been like kind of like rumored back in 2015, that there was going to be work that Netflix was working with Nintendo, you know, on a live action TV series, and then like nothing happened, you know, nothing came of the rumor, and it was just written off as you know, this isn't going to happen. But it just like last week it came out that apparently it was true, like it was all true, but it was something that Nintendo, who's extremely protective of their IPs, got cold feet when the rumor went through and got out there. It was supposed to be a secret, but things got leaked, and so Nintendo pulled the plug. But they didn't just pull the plug on that that Netflix show. They pulled the plug on everything else, because College Humor was working on like some like little like claymation Star Fox things that ended up getting pulled specifically because of those rumors. And so even though at the time the rumor of the Netflix show had never been 100% confirmed, now here we are 6 years later, and it's like, oh. And it's just like one of those things where people go and talk about when these leaks like spoil the announcements for developers and such. There are things like that where, you know, whole projects get canceled because of the leaks. I don't think that Blizzard is as protective with their IPs or as skittish as Nintendo has shown to been in this particular instance, but it is something that could be, you know, we know, you know, Blizzard likes to keep things, they like to play their cards very close to their chest, and so they like keeping their secrets, and they're very good about keeping leaks and rumors to a minimum, you know, compared to a lot of other studios. It has obviously slipped at times, you know, and things have gotten leaked, things have gotten announced, you know, prior to that. I look back at the commemorative Diablo art book with the Diablo 4 section, or at least the reference to the Diablo 4 section that was leaked, you know, a couple of weeks prior to BlizzCon and its announcement. Though anyone that's kind of, you know, reading the room knew that D4 was going to be announced anyways, but it was always nice to have that confirmation. It kind of steals a little bit of the thunder, a little bit of the excitement and the expectations from that. And, you know, we've just, that was one of those things that, oh, hey, another Netflix project that got completely canceled out of nowhere just because it got leaked. And the Diablo Netflix series has, what, been leaked 3 times now? Once from the showrunner, another one from a super early trademark listing, and the other one from the executive producer. So, who knows? Could still be there, you know, even despite the lawsuit, Blizzard and Netflix could still be working together. You know, even if they go through and they scrap the whole Netflix project and they go over to Amazon or Hulu or whatever, they can still carry on the body of work, you know, from one project to the next. Especially because, like, that trademark filing doesn't say Netflix, it says video on demand streaming. You know, so it leaves it open to work with anybody. But yeah, that's all I gotta say about that one. I hope, really hope, that BlizzCon Online might shed a little bit more light on that particular aspect. But again, predictions, speculation can be in the next episode. But the big news, the stuff that has been generating the most waves in the Diablo community over the last couple of weeks now has been the news that Vicarious Visions is being merged with Blizzard. So Vicarious Visions, if you have not read the story yet, is another studio that's under the Activision Blizzard umbrella, and they have been working on a bunch of remasters. They've done, most recently, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater remakes. They also did the Crash Bandicoot remakes, or remasters. Which, of course, both of those were received to much fanfare and applause. People absolutely loved it, especially the Tony Hawk Pro Skater ones, because there's actually a lot of former Neversoft devs that are on that team. So a lot of the people that helped make those games originally are then helping to remaster it. Helps a little bit, you know, just tad. But now, Vicarious Visions is fully merged with Blizzard, and is going to be going through and taking over the role of remastering Blizzard titles. And this, you know, comes on the heels of some other news and such, or not on the heels, that's the wrong verbiage, but on the heels of this announcement, some other things have gone through and come to light, such as apparently, like, the Classics division, so Team 1 has been disbanded, and the developers have been moved across various departments. And, you know, this is the team that was responsible for, you know, StarCraft Remastered, and also the much lamented Warcraft 3 Reforged. And that a lot of it stemmed from just how poorly Warcraft 3 Reforged was received, how buggy it was, and a lot of the issues, especially on the overpromise and underdeliver aspects, that the game was really bad in order to go through and start off with. And it still needs quite a bit of work, even to this day. But they're going through and they're bringing on the team at Vicarious Visions in order to go through and work on these remastered projects. In addition to, like, say, going through and remastering or working on the, say, Warcraft 3 Reforged and getting that up to, like, the Blizzard quality, the Blizzard level, what is there left? You know, StarCraft 2 and Heroes of the Storm, even though they were handled by Team 1, production is more or less kind of slowed down. At least on StarCraft 2, production is more or less completely ceased, and that they're just doing a much slower schedule on balance fixes and such. Heroes of the Storm has, of course, seen since that they have pulled back full-time development on that title, the rate and release of, like, the new heroes has slowed back substantially over the last couple of years. And there's Diablo 3, which is the one title under Classic that actually has seen faster production over the last couple of years, and they've been getting more and more ambitious with D3 than any of the other titles that were under the Classics team. Now, I imagine that the D3 team is kind of been split off, you know, from that. But what is there left for anyone to remaster? Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2, and the original Diablo are all on GOG, not necessarily remastered, but retooled to work on modern systems. There's only one big title left, and that's Blackthorn. No, of course, it is Diablo 2. And that was something that, Jason Schreier, who's been a long time, you know, kind of a journalist, video game journalist that has broke a lot of stories, particularly stories involving the Diablo franchise. It's where we heard, you know, our first kind of like concrete rumors about Diablo 4 prior to its announcement, you know, talking about the Project Hades and the canceled kind of Dark Souls like project, a little bit about the canceled Diablo 3 expansion, King of the North. You know, he's going through and is taking that Vicarious Visions acquisition a step further by talking about the disbandment of Team 1 and about how Vicarious Visions has now been put in charge of basically putting the last little bit of polish on the Warcraft 3 Reforged. But their big one is Diablo 2 Remastered, or it has been called Diablo 2 Resurrected. And so apparently after Warcraft 3 Reforged launched, there was a remake of Diablo 2 that was being handled by Team 1, but because of Warcraft 3's reception and just how the state that the game was released, they pulled that project and went through and handed it over to Vicarious Visions to begin working on it. And now, you know, here we are, fast forward a year later, and now Vicarious Visions is a part of Blizzard, and they're 100% working on Diablo 2. Obviously, Blizzard hasn't announced it. It's not officially confirmed, but this is a rumor that started in May of last year, before any of this went through and said. That was the Act 2 Gaming, a French gaming publication, that had went through and said not just that Blizzard was working on a Diablo 2 title, that it was called Diablo 2 Resurrected, and that it was actually Vicarious Visions that was the studio in charge of handling it, not the internal company at Blizzard, you know, the Classics division. And so that was, you know, received some skepticism and such. Like, this is a major gaming site that also successfully predicted like Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4, so they have a little bit of credibility in that respect for news and rumors. But then there wasn't anything. No news, no steps forward. There was a couple other like leaks and rumors around that time that there was going to be some sort of big reveal, like it was going to come in June. Oh no, it's July, maybe it's August, and then nothing came of it. Nothing manifested in terms of this D2 Resurrected announcement. And then now we have as close to an official confirmation as we're going to get before the official confirmation, in that Blizzard has bought Vicarious Visions in order to go through and work on remastering Blizzard titles, which leaves Diablo 2, you know, in like Lost Vikings, Blackthorn, and other titles such as that. And we don't think that you're going to go and make a major acquisition and take on 200 developers and make the head of that studio part of your executive board to remaster Lost Vikings. For the three of you that are insulted by that, I'm sorry, but that's just facts. It's all lining up very conveniently, and I have big expectations. I'm doing it again. I have big expectations for BlizzCon Online and getting a D2 Resurrected announcement, official. You know, not just official, but like official. You know, we're gonna be going. Blizzard's gonna be going like steady with Vicarious Visions and this D2, which means it's like, crap. You know, how many Diablo games do we have to play now? Like, you know, if Vicarious Visions does as good of a job that they did with Crash Bandicoot, you know, that's a game that Neve and I have played and have absolutely loved. It's amazing. We just recently, since this news broke, we were going through and talking about Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and about how much she enjoyed playing the game, how much I enjoyed playing the game, but how we both sucked at it, but we liked the game so much because of the soundtrack. I just picked up the game the other day so we could go through and play that as well. And so it's just, yeah. These are really good. They have a good set of devs that have a pretty good understanding of the things that they're going for and what they're doing. Obviously, a title like Diablo 2 has a lot of bits and pieces. It's a custom engine. The original art assets and stuff, because the things within the game are all compressed, but the original like textures that they had made like in Maya and then ported them over to like 2D sprites and things were lost, and so that would all have to be recreated. It's gonna be a big project. It's a massive undertaking, even compared to a more advanced game that was actually like 3D rendered, like Warcraft 3 Reforged, because they had everything for Warcraft 3, but there's a lot of stuff that went missing for Diablo 2. You know, which for the longest time, I think I definitely was one of those people that was misconstruing some comments that David Brevik had made about the source code being lost. That apparently it wasn't the source code; it was just the source assets, so art and things of that nature that had gone. And so it is a project that's doable, though it's going to be redeveloping a lot of things from the ground up. Do you keep it sprite based? Do you actually take it to become 3D? You know, when we start going from more of a remaster to like a reimagining, you know, and you know what have you, and we kind of see how that worked out with Warcraft 3. You just you know how ambitious do you want to get with the title, and how far from the original can you take it without it being something new? You know, something like Final Fantasy VII, even though they called it a remake, or they called it remastered, it was a remake. Like, it was not anywhere close to being the same game. It was a complete reimagining. But it worked. It worked for what it was. It stood on its own. And, you know, what are we going through and expecting, you know, from Resurrected? I don't know. I would obviously like something close to the original Diablo 2, but there are also a lot of things that, you know, just haven't aged as well with D2. Like mentioned earlier in the episode, level 92 is like halfway through the grind process if you want to get to 99, but you don't have to get to 99 to be able to play and appreciate the game. Like, you pretty much, you know, like get into like the 60s and you're fine. You know, you're good with almost any particular build that you want. But yeah, it will be cool. It will be cool to go through, play it again, and see what a 2021 take of a a 2000 game looks like. And just saying that makes me feel old. Gosh. But yeah, that kind of like wraps up the gaming news that we've got in terms of the Diablo related stuff. I appreciate you all going through, hanging out with me here live. Because you can always go through and you can catch the show live every other Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific over at twitch.tv/BlizzPro. Though, as we go through and we get into the BlizzCon Online, I will be recording that episode on the 17th. So the Wednesday before BlizzConline with Dreadscythe and Leviathan, if everything works out well. Timing is always up in the air and schedules change. But then also then having a follow-up and a wrap-up afterwards to see, where predictions landed, and also just to cover all of the news. Who knows, might even, stream a little bit during the presentations, just to give my, real-time thoughts and feedback and stuff. We'll have to see what my schedule is like on that weekend and such. Been doing some, weekend work here and there. I'm not too sure. But, yeah, keep your eyes peeled. As always, you can follow the show on Twitter for updates of when I'm going live or when I have to move a date or anything like that at the WM Workshop. You can also follow me at 9ballgamer on Twitter. And you can follow the show. We're on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, a whole bunch of different platforms. JR is the one that's going through and in charge of signing up on all those different things. I believe Spotify. I remember Spotify now. I don't use Spotify, so that one I never remember. But yeah, we're out there, and of course, just saying that, a big thank you to Blizzard themselves for honoring me by dropping me on the Blizzard launcher. You could go through and see that the show, is actually still on there if you tab through, but we had the top billing over the weekend, for the spotlight on the community. So if you're a new listener or an old listener or rediscovering the show, I appreciate you going through, listening, and checking us out. And I look forward to going through, bringing you the latest Diablo news, rumors, content, as well as my own thoughts and knowledge of everything Diablo and the development of the series and whatnot over the last couple of decades. But with that, wish you all a good evening, and I'll catch you all next time.